beginning of SeedInvest is we got involved in a movement to change 80-year-old securities laws back in 2011. And the whole idea behind it was to make it easier for startups to raise capital online. So 2011, we got a bill passed through Congress by a vote of 407 to 17 that got rolled into the Jobs Act, which was signed April 5th, 2012. And it basically permitted private startups to raise capital online for the first time, and also opened up civilian investing, as you mentioned earlier. And we started SeedInvest around the same time in 2012 to take advantage of these historic changes to securities laws, which are now finally kicking in.
Let's talk about the history of those laws, because to really understand why something's important, you have to understand how the context of it. When you say you tried to change an 80-year-old law, why did those 80-year-old laws, why were they actually created? Why in the 1920s or 30s did our government, the SEC, take the time to make classifications of investors? When you go to Vegas and you gamble, they don't really classify the folks. You can go to any table and go bet money.
Right.
If you want to go, buy beer, you can just go buy beer.
Yeah.
But when it comes to investing in stuff, only 3% are qualified to do it and 97% aren't. Why?
Well, you really have to go back to that time in the 1930s when it was very different. At the time in the 1930s, the popular emerging technology was a telephone.
Yes.
Right?
It's going to be big.
And back then, right before the Great Depression, you had snake oil salesmen in Louisiana who would call up random people in, you name the state, and sell them securities and companies that didn't exist. And back then, there was no internet, obviously, and there was no way to even figure out what companies were legit and not legit. So at that time, in conjunction with the Great Depression, the U.S. basically set up all these laws that we know today. They set up the SEC. They set up the laws for going public. And one of the things they did was greatly restrict an ordinary person's ability to invest in anything that is not a public company. And guess what? A lot has changed over those 80 years. Now, I can go on LinkedIn or anywhere on the internet and figure out a lot of information about any person, about any company.
The world wasn't as transparent back then. And people weren't, let's face it, as sophisticated.
Correct.
When it came to things like money or startups or companies.
Right.
So you had all these old biddies. We sitting there at home.
Yeah.
Phone rings.
Yeah.
Somebody on the line says, I want to sell you a gold mine.
Right.
And they would actually fall for it. And they would get some stock certificates. They'd be worth nothing. The person would just take the money and run.
That's absolutely right. And
so the government had great intention.
The government, I think, has good intentions most of the times.
Yeah.
But
I'm saying back then they had very virtuous intentions. They didn't want the old biddies
at the time
and naive people to do that. Hey, everybody, we've got a great new partner on This Week in Startups, and I'm really excited about it because it's a product that we're using here at This Week in Startups and launch, and it's called Design Crowd. You can go ahead and check it out at designcrowd.com and on Twitter at designcrowd. What is it? It is the best way to make a logo, a graphics, or web design for your business. It's an online marketplace where you can outsource or crowdsource, as you know, custom designs, and they have over 500,000 designers there around the world. Here's how it works. Very simple. You post a brief. What is a brief? It's basically like your spec. I'm looking for a logo for This Week in Startups. It's a podcast with a bombastic, aggressive, Brooklyn-born bulldog of a host, Jason Calacanis, but it's about technology and finance. And then you get feedback from 50 to 100 designers, sometimes even more. And then you give them feedback. So you look at the 50 or 100 designers' work and you say, you know what? These three speak to me. I like the bulldog logo. We used to have a bulldog logo in This Week in Startups. Yeah, let's play off the bulldog. And then I like this other person who's doing the skyline of New York and the skyline of San Francisco. Oh, that tells the story of Jason going from New York to San Francisco. Great. You give them that feedback. It motivates the designers. They give you more. And then you select the best one and you approve payment to that designer. It's a money-back guarantee. There are designers all over the world who love working on this type of platform, and their clients include the Harvard Business School, Forum for Innovation and Growth, Virgin, HTC, Absolute Vodka, Amnesty International, which was my first job out of school. I worked at Amnesty International as a microcomputer specialist, and 100,000 plus small businesses and entrepreneurs. Visit designcrowd.com/twist, and they will give you up to $100 on your next design project. Go ahead and visit designcrowd.com/twist and save up to $100 on your design project. And for the super fans, special mission, go ahead and thank @DesignCrowd on Twitter and Facebook, and I will like it and retweet it from our different accounts. Great way to engage and reward the partners who make independent media like This Week in Startups possible. Thanks again to our new partner, Design Crowd. Go ahead and try it. It's really good. Okay, let's get back to this amazing episode.